So I am recording this meeting as usual, and hopefully I'll be able to do a transcript. Okay, there we go. So welcome everybody again. Glad to see you all here today. Excuse me. Again, we are recording this meeting as usual. And want to start as usual, first of all, thanking our sponsors. Thanking our sponsors, Care First Health Plan, Satellite Broadcasters Association, United Way, Valley of the Sun, Khajiit, and our most recent sponsor, Triad Wireless. So thank you to all of our sponsors. Appreciate your support. So next, moving on, that we always like to start with anybody who's new to our group this morning. I know we have Bruce Tucker. You want to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, good morning. My name is Bruce Tucker. I'm the Director of Conduit Sales for United Poly Systems. We manufacture high-density polyethylene conduit that goes underground for raceway for the fiber optic cable, basically.
And Bruce, are you here in Arizona?
Yes, I'm based out of Phoenix, Arizona. We've got two plants, one in Springfield, Missouri, and one in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But yeah, I'm local.
Okay, thank you. And let's see who else we've got. We've got a couple of other people online this morning. Robert, you want to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Robert Gallegos, and I'm the Director of IT and Security for NACOG, the Northern Arizona Council of Governments here in Flagstaff, Arizona. And we're passionate about broadband for our 4-county region up here. And so I just appreciate the opportunity to sit in and learn more from your group here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else new that I've missed? Going once, going twice. Okay. Excuse me. So just a reminder again that we would like to have everybody's contact information. Please use the Google form and provide us your contact information. And you will also find the list of other people who had, it's not a complete list because not everybody has taken the time to fill out the form. So that was a little chastisement for any of you who needed a little kick in the butt there. Again, reminder that we will be doing our kibitzing with colleagues. For those of you who don't know what that is, that after our formal meeting, we turn off the recording and we just chat. So anybody who wants to stay online, has some questions, things that they want to share, or just have a discussion, you're invited to participate. And let's see, I think that's about it. Again, you might want to check the email that I sent. It does have announcements of new events, things coming up, resources, and so forth. So I encourage you to check that email announcement. Let's see what else. So our meeting schedule, of course, is now's the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th, and then of course we'll be meeting in April. Hopefully you have all received a calendar invite, and it's now on your calendar as a reminder. And with that, I'm going to just jump into actually, Sharika, so I don't forget, do you want to do another quickie about your hands-on STEM fair? Sharika, are you there?
Double muted again, sorry. Hello, everyone. I am Sharika Jackson. I am the founder, CEO of Future Stars, Inc., and I will be having a hands-on STEM fair in South Phoenix on April 23rd from 10 to 2. We are looking for activity vendors, so if you're interested, put your email in the chat and I can send you the application. There's no fee, but I just need a count of what you need. We're also looking for sponsors, tech companies that want to sponsor, helping us get all the supplies because kids make actual hands-on activities that they get to take home with them to continue the conversation of STEM in the house. Have any questions? Let me know. Thanks. Bye.
Great. Thanks, Sharika. Sharika's been a regular participant with our with our task force for quite a long time. So we appreciate your participation, Sharika, and hopefully we'll all support her event.
Thank
And
you.
then you'll be hearing from Kirk later about the Big Data Southwest event coming up. So with that, let's just jump into our updates. Jeff is not able to join us today. He's out of town. So Mark, I don't know if you have anything new that we should know about that Jeff might have reported on.
No, I don't really. I'm trying to think. He's certainly in the middle of evaluation of the 80 or so grant applications, a bit oversubscribed, but I know he's pleased with that, and we know he's trying to hire up, but I don't have the breaking news on that either.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on to the State Library. Mala, you're on, and Nicole, you'll be coming up shortly, and Holly. But Mala, you want to kick it off, please?
Sure. Can you
And introduce yourself, please, Mala.
Sure. Can you hear me, Jeff? Can you hear me, Steve?
Yes, sure can.
Okay. I'm Mala Muralidharan, the State E-Rate Coordinator for Public Libraries. I also work on the ALA E-Rate Task Force and represent the State Library at Shelby. Shelby is the Schools, Health, Broadband, Libraries, Broadband Coalition. I'm going to focus on 2 or 3 different things today. E-Rate is is right at the top because our March 22nd application deadline is approaching, and I'm working with the public libraries and getting the application submitted. We were looking at some statistics and found that 2021 applications, almost all of them have been funded. We are at a 98.5% funding for 2021 applications, and we've been funded for $103 million in Arizona, that is schools and libraries together, which is about 3.9% of the total national applications funded. This is great because, well, we are 50 states, we're supposed to receive 2%. Anything over 2% is great. So we are at 3.9%. And having done the statistics, I found that from 2018 onwards, we've been getting consistently over 3%. You know, we've got 2018, we've been funded at 4.9%. At 2019, we've been funded at 3.1%. 2020, 4.6%. So these numbers are great. I'm glad we have applicants willing to do the E-Rate application because it is tough, and shepherding them through that. Mylan and I are trying our best to get as many correct applications in as possible. And of course, thanks to all of the consultants who are working with us as well. In the last 5 years, like I reported last time, the median price per Mbps has dropped 71% from $4.80 an Mbps to $1.39 per Mbps. The wireless access points average price has also dropped from $1,400 to $700 per wireless access point, and the non-contracted service also has dropped 50%. That means the non-contracted applications always have the highest prices because they are not contracted, of course, and they go month to month. But there's been a 50% drop in that, which is great, which means that there are more and more applications that are being contracted versus just a month to month. I want to also report on the Emergency Connectivity Fund. 10 rounds have been received. So 10 rounds of application funding has been received. Arizona has been approved for a total commitment of $134 million. And there are still some more applications that are pending. About 88% of the applications have been funded. Another 12% are remaining to be funded. And hopefully they will get funded soon because thankfully, at least they have extended the deadline to the utilization of this to June 30th, 2023. It was June 30th, 2022. And after a lot of protests and letters to FCC, finally they agreed to push that to June 30th of 2023. On the Emergency Broadband Benefits Program, now the ACP, Affordable Connectivity Program, there are, I think Nicole and Cindy would report on the meetings that we've had. But just again, to give you some figures, about 10 million households have signed up in the whole of the country. And we, as of December, I really can't seem to find the figures, month-to-month figures for ACP. Maybe I'm not looking at the right place, but as of December, we had 212,000 households who had signed up. And the enrollment by county, if we looked at it, Maricopa County, of course, had the highest enrollment at 90,000 households. Next was Pima County with 34,000 households, and closely followed by Navajo County and Apache County, not very close, but close, is about 12,000 households each. And I will put the link to the ArcGIS map that actually shows how many households, color codes, how many households have signed up, and you will really, notice the difference about Arizona sign up. Thanks in no small measure to all of the participants on this call, as well as previous calls who have pushed this forward. And I think today Cindy and Nicole will talk about the media kit that we are developing for that's going to live on Connect Arizona website. And I will leave it to them to talk about it. We're working with Shelby on one major issue, of course, other issues as well, but one major issue on multiple family dwellings. Many of the rental apartments and multiple dwellings are always covered by one particular vendor, and they have exclusivity. There's been discussion about that, and about whether it should be the tenant that signs up for EBB or the owner of that apartment complex of the unit, the building manager signs up the whole complex for ACP. Of course, so far it has, the rules have not been set for something like that. It has been individual tenants that are applying, but that means also that they are forced to apply to the one service provider that provides for that building. We're working on that, and it is a complex issue. The last thing I want to talk about is Treasury Capital Projects Fund, which is again money that's a capital project fund money that is coming out, $10 billion that has been set aside for this. Last week, we had a call with Joey Wender, who used to be the aide to Senator Markey. He has been asked to take charge of the 10 billion capital project fund. And it is a little bit more flexible than the NTIA, but some of the states are already submitting their plans right now. And maybe if we get our act together or get a group together to work on it, we too can try to submit a plan for Arizona. This fund is not restricted to unserved areas. It focuses on workforce development, education, healthcare, and it has funding for anchor institutions, which some of the others did not have. It could be an opportunity to improve the broadband connectivity to the anchor institutions if we can get something put together. They are accepting applications as of now. Any other questions? I have no updates on the telehealth project. I mean, it's moving, but it's moving at slowly. It's moving at its own pace. So I don't really have any updates as of this week. Back to you, Steve, unless
Okay.
there are any questions.
Any questions from Mala? Hala, I didn't,
Mala, can
go
you hear
ahead.
me?
Go ahead, Rory.
I'm sorry. Mala, have you reached out to Jeff Sabatka to see if he's working with any of these treasury funds or has submitted for them?
No, he hasn't submitted for them right now. Jeff is kind of busy with his own grant and with recruitment. So he has not applied. If he had, this is the forum that we would first hear about. And I think we have a good start in having this group together, but we need to put some project together before we can get the application to the Treasury.
Mala, do you know if Jeff has applied for any BEAD funding for mapping Arizona?
Not yet, not yet. He has not
Does he
applied.
plan to?
Of course, but again,
Oh,
as
okay.
I said, yeah, as I said, he's busy currently with awarding his own grant, and I think then that this has taken a back burner just for now, just for a little bit.
Is there any way that we can help start putting this information together? I'm sitting in a presentation in New Orleans right now, and a lot of this funding is moving very quickly.
Yes.
A lot of it tied to Jeff directly with the state. So if there's any panel or group that's working on this, please include me with that, and I can help out with the information that we're given at this show.
I would request anyone who's interested in working on the project or has shovel-ready projects, has a great idea. Let's, if Steve has the time, we can send, we can ask Steve if he can put this group together. We can contact. Are you ready to take that up, Steve? We can contact you and let you know that we're interested, and we can start a small group that looks at the Treasury funds.
Sure.
Would you be, yeah, thank you.
I need to, again, obviously connect with Jeff and kind of find out where he is and what his intent is and so forth, and then go from there.
Right,
Yeah,
at least if you know who's.
This is Mark. The assumption that, Jeff has confirmed is that the state, now that it has the KPMG middle mile study, will take the $192 million allocation and likely present the specifics of a plan that likely splits that with some state middle mile investments and some refresh of the current grant program. I'm not sure there'll be other elements, and so there's a kind of decision to make about which middle mile projects. I don't know that they're really looking for a committee to work on that, but Steve should check with Jeff. I think internally they'll make a decision about splitting that 192 million between those two purposes, and they've yet to do that.
So hopefully I will talk to Jeff, but I think that probably next Monday is a good time. Hopefully Jeff will be on the call again, and and can best answer all of those questions for the whole group. And then we can decide from there, do we need to have a planning group, or how do we move ahead with that? Is that okay with everybody? Not
think
hearing-
so.
I'm good with it. I have one other point that we've just discovered here at this presentation that's huge. Apparently, the map, the FCC and the NTIA are counting on us, counting on the states to provide their own mapping system to enhance it, and they will build out over the top of any state infrastructure that's built out. Basically, it's who gets there first, and they're not going to allow rejection of an area. If, for example, if RDOF or CAF, and if anybody's not familiar with that, those were fairly large awards given out over the last few years to ISPs. But the one thing that they're making very clear is that if the state awards money for an area and it has already been awarded RDOF or CAF money that's coming behind it, the state deployment funding will not deter them from still continuing to award those funds. So I don't know how that feeds into everything we're doing, but I think it is a big issue, since 150,000 homes were covered under RDOF, and I don't have the data for CAF, but most of the rural areas were funded for fiber or high-speed internet of 1 gigabit per second. So it might be something to consider in terms of how our funds get used.
And Jeff was in Washington, D.C. with a bunch of broadband directors and the relevant agencies just about a week ago. So he'll be up on that, Rory.
Okay. I think that would be something that would be important to understand next week, if that's possible. Steve, if you can ask Jeff to at least say a couple words on that.
So maybe what we'll do, Rory, is next week, rather than having a presentation, that we will just devote, again, I need to connect with Jeff, but maybe we'll just devote some more time to this discussion, since it's so critical and relevant.
That sounds good to me. We're seeing areas that we know have been funded 3 and 4 times for the same service. So already tax dollars are kind of being overlapped. So yeah, got my vote.
Yeah, I can just, know from Jeff's efforts that he's pretty much on top of all of this stuff. It's just a matter of, as we were discussing earlier, hopefully he'll have additional staff in the near future here. That he's a one-man band, and of course he's focused on getting these grants approved and out to people. But he is obviously the person who knows what's happening, and we need to have that conversation with him. So I will get in touch with him, and I think that makes sense for us to just have that as a primary focus for our next meeting. Thanks for bringing that up, Rory. Okay, moving on. So Nicole, I saw your note, and I'm going to now turn it over actually to Cindy and you for updates on what's happening in the digital inclusion space. Cindy, you there? Cindy Hogan, hello.
Sure. Yeah, I thought she was still on. Okay. Yeah, the Digital Inclusion Network that's under the AZBSN task force is currently holding, we held lunch meetings twice a month for practitioners to discuss specific topics. And we'll be starting another monthly meetup space soon that will be open to everybody for discussions centered around digital inclusion generally and topics related. So we're working on that with Steve. The topic discussed at the last 3 meetings, the last 3 lunch meetings, was the Affordable Connectivity Plan. That's the FCC program that Mala referred to earlier. And the product of those meetings is a media and resource toolkit that we'll provide to Steve so that it can be sent out to the entire task force attendee list to use and share out to their networks. This is this is a little different. The ACP is a little different than EBB in that it's not it's not an emergency broadband benefit. It's a more long-term program. So strategic planning and how to get things out so that they're more effective is worth the time and trouble. And we've pulled out a bunch of best practices, and we can submit those to Steve also to share. And Sharika has that in-person STEM event in April. She suggested it would be a real good place to promote the ACP Affordable Connectivity Plan. So anyone who is interested in doing that, setting up a table for signups takes a little organization, but if you contact either myself or Sharika, we can both put our emails in the chat, and you can get in touch with us to see if we can start organizing that. The other thing, a number of people on this call are working together on the Pima County Strategic Plan for Digital Access, Inclusion, and Adoption. We're currently mapping existing digital literacy efforts throughout Pima County and gathering information from community members and organizations. There's also a group that was founded by the United Way and Tucson Elder Alliance and Pima Council on Aging to address digital inclusion barriers between being experienced by older adults. Again, a number of folks on this call are also involved in that group, and you can contact me again if you'd like to attend that. And I also have I'm going to post 2 versions of the notes from the National Digital Inclusion Alliance Net Inclusion Conference that I went to. And eventually there are going to be videos of the event to come, and they haven't gotten those out yet, but I have 2 places where you can go to for synopses of those of that event and all the sessions that took place, and open to questions if anyone has any.
So Cindy, can you just remind people that there's been a change in the benefits when they change from EBB to ACP?
Yes.
Do you want to just remind people about that? Because it's pretty significant impact on people.
Yes, it's the subsidy dropped from $50 to $30 off of a broadband internet service monthly fee. The tribal amount stayed $75, so that's a good thing. And there's still a $100 discount for a device per eligible household. Initially, when I was doing research around service plans around the state, I was finding that they were still the lowest plans in the service providers listing of plans was staying at $50. But since I've discovered that a lot of them have dropped and they're doing a $30 plan so that people can still, can still have the entire service covered. Sometimes I can't say for sure it's the same exact service or the same exact speed, but it is possible to still get free internet service with this subsidy. The other thing that if they signed up for the EBB, they have to opt out of their current plan if they want to drop to this $30 plan. Otherwise, they're gonna start getting charged full price. So that is a critical piece.
Okay.
And I think that's all I have.
Okay, Nicole, do you want to add anything?
No, Cindy, that was pretty great. So we did have our focused lunch meetings, and we're also planning for bringing together, as Cindy said, a larger group from this group and others. And really, our plan there is to facilitate the networking amongst all the different people who are doing digital inclusion activities. But we've mentioned the BEAD programming, so we're trying to gather everybody's information and really come to the same terms about what our strategic priorities are, and that can support Jeff's work using the BEAD funds and whichever state entity ends up being in charge of the plan.
Okay. Any questions for?
I do. I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
This is Carla, everyone. My apologies. Anyway, I can't turn my camera on, but when it comes to that subsidy program, do we have any statistical data that reflects geographically where it's working? And let me ask you what, let me tell you why I asked that question. I recently worked with some people in the Nogales area for this particular program. And the one thing that they realized is that many of them are not eligible for it because of the speed of the internet provided in that area does not align with the requirements. So while people may want to take advantage of it, may qualify for it, well, from a financial perspective, if the speed of the internet provider it does not align, they don't qualify for it. So there's a lot of people falling through the gaps. Do we have any data as to how many people it's actually working with geographically? Where is it working the most, and what can we do to support to fill in that gap?
The data actually shows about 2,028 households in Santa Cruz County that have signed up. We really don't know, I don't know that there is data anywhere that says the exact number of households in Santa Cruz County. Cindy, did you find any data like that?
No, I don't, but Carla, I would talk, there's a little bit of feedback from somebody. Carla, I would talk to you offline about that issue because Joy, could you mute, please? So yeah, I could talk to you offline about this because it's something that I haven't come across before. So I'll put my email in the chat and we can I can talk to you about what I know.
Okay, perfect.
This is Mark. So on mapping, Carla, we're all working off of basically a 12-year-old metric and protocol for mapping that does it by census block. It's notoriously incorrect because of some structural reasons, and the FCC, under congressional mandate, is working to revise that entirely to an entirely new paradigm that goes to the address level, but that's taking some time. And so providers will have to submit that new data somewhere after June 1, but I believe before September 1. And so those new maps are likely going to be available late this year or early next year. And no one will be able to spend their big infrastructure block grant money on broadband until those new maps are in place. So there's a lot of pressure, but there's a really old and intricate story about why the current mapping is not particularly good. So,
however, there is Mala put in the chat probably before Carla got on a map that actually shows not general data, but affordable connectivity / EBB locations of signups.
right.
The thing that I'm curious about is that providers not having the same quality, the required quality of service. So I'd be really curious to pursue talking about that because that is something I haven't heard before.
Yeah, I'd love to follow up on this. I just emailed you, Cindy. So I definitely want to see what I can do to help, like I said, fill in that gap and figure out what we can do to help the providers to definitely subsequently help the community in that area.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what we can provide, but we have a pretty extensive and successful EBB program in Northeast Arizona and Northwestern New Mexico. I can see if I can gather some data. What specifically would you guys be interested in?
Lori, can you tell us who you are so that
I'm sorry. This is Lori Burkett. I am with Smith Bagley Inc. I'm the information and data specialist, and we work in the Four Corners area. Well, our network is in the Four Corners area. We provide broadband, cellular, and all types of service for our clients within that footprint. And then we have a nationwide cellular program. We partner with AT&T to roam off of their network and T-Mobile. And so we're a rural carrier, so we're a tier 2 carrier or service provider in that area. So we have we service most of all of the Navajo Nation, Ute, Zuni, Hopi, and Apache nations. So we have a pretty extensive network. We've been here for over 25 years. And we're actually one of the first carriers in the area to provide phone service of any kind to those areas.
Well, Lori, I was just going to give you a little plug. Your numbers are fabulous. Like the percentage of people that are eligible and signed up in the Four Corners area is amazing. So that kind of fills in that piece for me of who's getting everybody signed up, because
We were,
like you're doing a
yeah,
really good job.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you too.
We were very because one of the elements of the relationship that we have with the tribal nations, it has been built on trust, and it's taken. I one time had a large banking institution ask me how they could get onto the Navajo Nation because they had repeatedly tried to get those cards that you fill with money on there and compete with Wells Fargo, and they simply weren't able to after 5 years. And my only answer to them was it was the relationship. Because most of the tribal nations, it is built on trust and long-term relationships. And so one of the efforts that we made initially was when we found the EBB program was beginning, we proactively reached out to our customers through SMS, through our sales and marketing team, and shared with our customers who was eligible and how they became eligible. We almost exclusively use USAC's platform in order to get eligibility for our clients. We've done things like for our veterans, we developed a hotline so that they could reach out directly to the Veterans Administration, have their paperwork faxed directly to our stores, because you can only get paperwork through the federal government either by fax or by mail. And so they were, a lot of them were not able to get help because they either didn't have an address or didn't have a viable way to get mail. And so we developed a hotline so that they could talk to their VA rep, and then the VA rep could fax their paperwork directly to us. And then we in turn could take the paperwork and begin service for them. We do things like that in order to help our customers. We work extensively with the schools to find out who is in need at the schools and provide data-only devices to the households. So whenever there is a problem, we just find a way to solve it and work closely with the tribes and with the local administrations and government leadership. And it seems to work. We just have that knack for getting those relationships moving quickly.
Yeah, and you're making just the right key connections with people to kind of grease the wheels of getting people connected. That's amazing.
Yeah, it happened very quickly. I mean, we're able to pivot very quickly and get that taken care of.
Wow. Thank you very much.
Okay, Cindy, anything else?
I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so before we move on, EJ, if I can put you on the spot for a moment, do you have anything that you want to add to the issues about working with the tribes? Okay, moving on. So Mala, Janet's not online, and you said you really didn't have anything more on the telehealth and libraries project at the moment, huh?
Right, that's correct.
Okay, and Janet is not here. And so Department of Ed, Sophia, I think you're online. I haven't seen Mylan or Kelly. Am I correct that they are not online today?
I don't think so. And I was having technical issues when I started, so I was late, but I'm here now. And really the only announcement that we had last week is that we are using some of our federal COVID recovery dollars to give teachers these $1,000 grants for their classrooms. And they can use them for whatever they want to use them for. And I will drop the link in the chat for the website where they can apply for their $1,000 if you guys want to share it with teachers or schools that you guys work with.
Okay, anything else? I take that to be a no. And I believe Leah is not online, and I don't think Derek is online today. Actually, a lot of folks are not online today. And Wes, I don't see is here today. Rory, do you want to, since you're in the thick of things, do you want to just talk a little bit about the latest with the Final Mile project? Are you still there, Rory? Okay. Well, looks
He
like
is at a WISP conference in New Orleans.
okay.
So those second tranche of 5 RFPs, the responses were due about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And I'm sure they're in the middle of evaluating them for the additional. This is a second group of 5 RFPs for small community student home connectivity.
Okay. Any questions for any of those folks before we move on? Okay, so if not, we're going to move on to our quote presentation this morning, or probably more discussion. And with our perpetual lurker here, Kirk Bush, CEO of Big Data. Kirk has been a great supporter of us and lots of different things here in Arizona. And in particular, there's a big conference coming up that that he wants to tell us about. And actually, in conversation with Kirk, he'd like to have some discussion and dialogue. He and Mark are working on on behalf of ATIC on developing a providers group and with a kickoff at that conference. So with that, Kirk, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to shut up and let you talk for a while. Kirk, are you there?
He's still on mute. Hasn't figured out how to turn the mute button off. Good morning, everybody.
Steve, why don't you kill your screen share?
Yeah, I was just about to do that.
Can I share a screen?
You can.
I don't have a big fancy presentation, but I just put together some cut and pasted some slides out of pretty much my LinkedIn stuff that pretty much just says what we're doing and why we're doing it. What do I share?
So Kirk, before you get into the conference, why don't you just tell people a little bit about you? You are engaged in so many things related to STEM and everything that I think would be interesting for people to know about you and your company.
Okay. Kind of what, I don't know, can you see this?
Yeah.
Should have the other screen up.
There you go.
So I'm an old semi-retired aerospace and semiconductor guy from way back. Started my career at Motorola in a machine shop, and then pretty much everything manufacturing and tech since then, and got pulled into from a electronics manufacturing perspective and big thin film manufacturing of solar panels in Asia. Got pulled into the solar space, then became a solar advocate, pushing all kinds of sustainability and solar initiatives. And from that got pulled into becoming an energy advocate. So I'm now on the board and kind of a co-founder of the Arizona Energy Consortium, which actually started out as a committee inside the Tech Council. And that led into overall data center and all things tech kind of advocacy work that I do now. And the underlying theme throughout all of that work has been workforce development. It's always been kind of a passion of mine, you know, getting kids involved in STEM and everything that we need to develop a future workforce. So with that, any other questions on that real quick, Steve?
Well, just if you want to get a little more specific, you know, you don't have to go a lot of detail, Kirk, but a little more specific about that, the workforce development. And the
Yeah, I'm
STEM.
gonna get into that as I
Okay.
go through some of these slides.
Okay.
That's kind of the undersigned. And then there again, this is just pretty much from my LinkedIn. I don't really have a formal presentation that we do much of in this space. So one of our biggest, I guess what I do the most is try to bridge the gap between industry and education. So this is the SciTech Institute, which is one of our primary beneficiaries of everything we do. The actual conference coming up, the chief science officers of the SciTech Institute are going to actually help run the summit, and 10% of the proceeds actually go directly to them. This is a data center group, 7x24, that we're also involved in. We do fundraisers for the STEM kids. They came out and participated. We raised $20,000 for them in one evening at that event. We also participated and helped sponsor STEM Fest 22 at the Barrett-Jackson Auto Auction with the kids. We also are advocates in a solar go-kart program with the after-school high school kids compete building solar go-karts. So we also sponsor and support that. And that's also part of our workforce development efforts. Here's something else we're doing with ASU, where iMasons is an international digital infrastructure group that during the 7x24 international exchange, we began the dialogue with ASU, formally establishing a digital infrastructure degree program at ASU. We're going to have another roundtable discussion and breakout on that at the summit April 6th. But this is also part of what, and you can see the logos down there, who's involved in it right now. I don't know if this works. Does that zoom in?
Yes.
While I'm doing it? So see, these are some of the folks that are involved in it right now. And that's expanded tremendously. It'll be the first digital infrastructure degree of a major university ever. We're excited about this. It's very similar, taking the very similar path that the sustainability engineering degree did, almost a decade ago now, or probably more than a decade ago now, where it starts out as a minor and then eventually becomes a major. Arizona Energy Consortium is another thing we're involved in. And there again, we've got a summit for it coming up, our conference, and that's coming up May 24th. That's us speaking with the president of APS. Another big thing that we help promote also is the actual digital infrastructure, data center, and IT incentive bill in Arizona, where anybody that invests in data centers and anything inside the data centers are tax exempt, and there's a lot of incentives there, which have really helped promote Arizona as third largest deployment of data centers in the nation. We got huge projects going on out in Mesa with Google and Facebook, and Apple's got their biggest global command center out in Mesa. Microsoft, huge installations on the west side of town. A lot of the colo folks that aren't standard names for most people that aren't in the data center business, like Stream and Compass, also have huge campuses being developed. And it's really been a great economic development effort for Arizona. It's also really driven a tremendous amount of investment in renewable energy. We're talking 200, 300, 400 megawatt solar installations to feed these big tech applications. And I think one of the primary things we want to talk about today, coming up on the summit, is the beginning a roundtable discussion. And we can kill presenting here in a minute, but I really want to kind of segue in a discussion kind of with Mark and kind of a roundtable format, and let Mark start talking about what we're going to do with the provider roundtable. Jeff and Mark are going to participate in this broadband and digital equity panel at the summit. And then we will break out after that and have the roundtable, which isn't formally on the agenda, and and host a provider roundtable that Jeff also wants to participate in, and go from there. Mark, you want to talk about that?
Sure. So ATIC for actually quite some time was interested in establishing a telecom provider kind of working group where their interests, there is no statewide organization that I'm aware of for providers in general. There's a cable association for Arizona and the Southwest, but there's not, and there used to be a competitive carrier association long ago in Arizona. So we thought we could broker those conversations between providers primarily. We're not going to limit attendance, but it is, to parties of interest, but it is definitely focused on providers' issues and needs. It may start with a brief presentation, but it's primarily about conversation. So I will facilitate that meeting. I don't really have a fixed agenda yet, and I'm working on a list of providers and contacts that's coming along with a bit of help from Jeff and Mala that we'll use to invite people. And then Steve, we can talk about, I don't know that that list in all its granular detail of specific individuals is a publishable product, but it will be at least a source list that maybe we can create a link page from or something. I probably don't want that list to simply become a public list because people may be adverse. They may not be the right contacts for all issues and so on, but I am building finally a provider contact thing. So we'll really have a good afternoon with those in telecom, going right from the broadband panel into the breakout, probably up against that work that what's that session called, a workforce session that'll, people take people off that track to come to the broadband. It will be fully hybrid. It will be no charge to attend, just those parts for providers, maybe some charge if they want to be there a whole day. And Kirk is, into my understanding, going to be pretty generous about comping people around this table for the whole day. Again, it's fully hybrid. You can come on site to the Willow Conference Center, and you can enjoy it from the safety and convenience of your home or workplace as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna generate an AZBSN code that will get distributed to the group also. A lot of the early stuff is going to be so data center centric. I'm not really sure that it would interest a lot of the folks that attend this every Monday morning and part of the overall digital task force. But the afternoon sessions and then the reception for sure, I think would, interest folks, and we'll get codes out and so you can all attend. And I hate to put Erin on the spot, but I invited her to moderate the ESG panel too, because she's so great at it. And literally literally did it.
Not putting someone on the spot.
Well, you could have stayed muted and pretend you're in another meeting. But
wait, what?
But Erin is just, there's nobody more knowledgeable, right? In overall tech, and then inclusion, and then what we have to do to get in the lane and create jobs and everything else and make the planet better. So I've been drinking from a fire hose on this whole summit anyway, and I literally just reached out to Erin texting on this Zoom, asking her if she'd like to moderate, because we've got the workforce development folks from Google coming. We've got the Chris Ross is now the senior program manager of higher education at Intel. He's involved. There's a few other invites out right now with data center specific workforce development folks that are 85% confirmed. We've canceled the summit. I don't know, Mark, how many times? 3 times because of COVID?
Something like that.
So, and a lot of our bigger players are only getting allowed to travel and participate in the beginning of April. You know, there's like end of March is where they're relaxing a lot of the restrictions. So it's been kind of crazy. I'm actually looking forward to 2023, to be honest with you. Can't wait till this one's behind us, but everybody's excited for the event. And Aaron, I really appreciate you putting it on your calendar tentatively. I'm happy to follow up with details, but I think it's going to be a great event. And STEM, the theme of the event is STEM kids are our future. So we really work hard to try to, you know, do the industrial engagement. ASU, when we're working with these iMasons folks, which is an international group, the original founder of iMasons is a guy named Dean Nelson that his started out in the 80s as a tech on a bench fixing boards at Sun Microsystems, and then ended up being the guy who literally put together the Uber infrastructure for the app, the data centers, and everything. So the guy really knows the business from soup to nuts, and he's a founder of the iMasons digital infrastructure, which is an international group that kind of umbrellas the 7x24 guys, the open compute guys, and some of these other groups that kind of focus a little more in certain areas. And in working with them as we establish, and Wendy Peterson with Google heads up our curriculum task force, which is a task force underneath the overall education committee. But they're absolutely amazed with ASU. They're amazed how truly people, you know, universities talk industrial engagement, but a lot of them are very exclusive, right? And in ASU's investment, industrial engagement, and the work they really do in bridging that gap is truly amazing. And we get a lot of compliments on that from the iMasons folks. And we've got follow-up committee meetings on the subject today also.
So Kirk, I might just mention, well, you commented that maybe some of the sessions may not be of interest to some of the people on this call, but as those of you who have attended events over the years know that one of the best benefits of a lot of these conferences and so forth is the networking. And as you heard from Kirk, there's going to be a lot of very significant people that many of you may want to connect with. And so from that perspective, it may be worthwhile for you to participate. And Kirk, we appreciate that you're willing to provide the opportunity for people to participate in the conference.
Sure. Anybody who's been participating in AZBSN is definitely got a comp ticket with their name on it. So we can work on all the details on that later too, Steve.
Sure.
But if everybody wants to, feel free to put it on your calendar. You're more than welcome to participate. And everybody that's helping with this crowd for sure gets a comp ticket.
Any questions or comments for Kirk?
Or Mark on the
Mark.
actual
Yes.
roundtable?
Yeah. Anything for anybody? Going once, going twice? Okay, so if there's nothing more for Kirk, any other announcements that people have that they'd like to bring up before we end the meeting? Well, hearing none. I'm sorry.
Steve, you got to give it more than 2 seconds.
Okay, sorry.
So no, it's okay. I came on the meeting late, so if you talked about it, I apologize. But the Jeff Sabatka bill 2678 did clear the Senate Trans and Technology Committee last week, 8-0. It's on the Rules Committee agenda today, which is sort of the procedural process before it goes to the floor. It could be on the floor this week. And since it was not amended, and unless it's amended, that could clear it to go to the governor's desk by the end of the week, if not next week. So it's in good process.
And John, what is the effective date? Is that a July 1 effective date or?
No. So it depends on when it's signed, Mark. So it's usually 90 days after signature. The general effective date applies to the end of the legislative session. So it depends on when the end of the legislative session is. But if that gets to the governor's desk, it'll go into effect earlier than the general effective date.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Can that bill, do we have any way of posting that? This is Lori, posting Jeff's bill in or link to it in the chat?
Good question. John, do you have a link? I think I sent out.
I would be happy to put that in the chat. I'll just take it from the legislative website and I'll.
You're the
have it
best.
up
Thank you.
In a moment. No, I'm not the best.
So I don't know, John, if there was a
Mostly
whole lot
best.
of details in that bill. I think it was mostly just codifying the commitment to have a broadband office. Am I correct about that?
Well, it's not just that. I mean, what the whole bill is based on the fact that the current broadband office was created by this governor through executive order and executive fiat. And so this governor's term ends in January of 2023. And so there's no guarantee that the next governor would maintain that office. This gives it some structure. Plus, I think there are some federal requirements that the state broadband office have a statutory authority in order for it to be eligible for grants. So there are a couple different reasons why it has to be done.
Okay. Thank you, John. Any questions for John? Okay, well, hearing none, I'm going to stop recording. And so Mauricio, I see that you're asking about, did I send calendar invites? And yes, I did last week. So if that's not getting out, then I will try to resend that. Okay. If nothing else, I'm going to stop recording. And
I got the invite, Steve, just FYI.
Okay. Did all of you on this call get that invite? Hearing none, I assume you did.
Yes, I got it.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm going to stop recording and then we'll go into kibitzing for anybody who wants to stay online. Thank you all and hopefully see you next week.